Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to make ceviche in the style in which it's found in Quito, Ecuador. Ceviche is a dish found all across Latin America, Central and South America, of course, from Mexico all the way down into Argentina and Chile. Every little place often has their own different version of it. So this particular version here is something I was introduced to by a family in Ecuador and in Quito, in fact. And so it may vary quite a bit from what you might find in other countries or even perhaps in other parts of Ecuador. Now, ceviche itself is basically lime marinated fish, typically, although sometimes other things are used, and then prepared in various different kinds of ways. This particular version is eaten as a kind of a lukewarm to cold soup. Other kinds may be similar to a bruschetta, maybe mixed with tomatoes, finely chopped tomatoes, onions, and so forth, and maybe served on bread or similar kinds of presentation styles. On top of that, sometimes in Ecuador, people will use chicken or fish, not just fish, chicken or shrimp or some other things. In some cases, we actually have to cook these first. So chicken obviously should be cooked first. Shrimp need to be cooked first. Squid need to be cooked first. Some kinds of fish, especially those that are really heavy and thick, like swordfish or shark, would need to be cooked first. But in general, if you have like a sea-based white meated fish like halibut or sole, or in this case pollock, that doesn't need to be cooked, and the lime juice will do a great job of firming that up for you and providing the right texture and flavor. So in this particular case, we'll talk about the base, which of course is the lime marinated stuff, and then the way in which this would be prepared, at least traditionally in Quito. So hope you enjoy it, and if you have any questions or anything like that, of course, feel free to reach out. So my own personal history with this dish goes way back. Back in, I think, 2001 or 2002, I learned this dish from a family that I was visiting in Ecuador. Then, at that time, I was working at Microsoft, and I spent about 3 months in Ecuador trying to learn Spanish with varying degrees of success. So then when I came back, I often worked a Saturday shift, and Microsoft's campus was out kind of in the middle of nowhere. The cafeteria would be closed on Saturday, and the only other people on my floor were the Latin American translators. So typically on Saturday we would get together and throw a big batch of this together and eat it for lunch, and all enjoy it, and it was a big hit. So this dish is great for those sorts of circumstances where you don't have a full kitchen, you want to prepare something really nice. And for this reason also, it's great for summer, and it's great for these quarantine times, because maybe you're working in an office, maybe you don't have access to the kitchen, or maybe you have reduced access to the kitchen. And so this allows you to prepare this sort of dish almost wherever. So now for our ingredients. Now I will be adding some cilantro or coriander leaves later, I hope. When I got some at the store today, I thought I actually got parsley, so I will be going back. But we have limes, lots of limes. Don't quite know how many it will take, so I got 16 limes. We're going to have a dash of olive oil in this one. our fish, in this case, what they call in German Seelachs, which in English is pollock. But you can use any white sea fish. You can also use like squid or shrimp, but in those cases you want to cook them, and some people even put cooked chicken in their ceviche. We have red onions, and then we have tomato ketchup. This is the one I happen to have around. I will add to that a small amount of cayenne pepper and some salt. But that's the ingredient list. And so now we will make the ceviche base. Now, one of the nice things about ceviche is that the base will keep for a while. So you can make a bunch of it and then prepare the final stages sort of as needed. So here we have, this doesn't feel like it has much in the way of bones. So I'm just going to start cutting this away. Oh, I feel a few bones here. I'll get to those when I get to that portion. And just cut this into smallish pieces. And then we're going to put it in a glass container and cover it with fresh lime juice. And then it will sit at least for several hours, can keep for several days. Into the area where there are bones. So if you have bones, just pull them out. Any more? There seems to be one more, two more, three more. Still feel one more. Right. Oh, yep, right there. I'm going to do the other fillet the same way. Now, I actually got more fish than I expected because last time I got these, they were like 200 grams a piece, and these ones were like a little over 300. So I'll cut this the same way, and then we'll be right back. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze limes over the top until this is nicely covered. So take a few limes, cut them in half. Now, in some places they add some other citrus juices to this, but you wouldn't add them at this stage. So this is always just lime juice here. And it's really best to use fresh, don't use canned. And it's actually going to take a lot of limes. It's going to take at least 8 limes maybe more like 10, maybe even more than 12, depending on how juicy these limes are. These seem pretty juicy, so we might be good with 8. I'll come back when we have this covered in lime juice. And so this was the juice of just 8 limes, so I still have 8 left. That's fine. Basically the whole purpose of the lime juice is to effectively cook the fish. And I want to show you that you can see, like right here, the outside of the fish is already starting to look kind of cooked, and the inside is still looking very raw. But as this sits for a couple hours, the whole bit of the fish will develop a very cooked texture, and the texture and the flavor of the fish will also resemble that which has been, say, poached. So we're going to go ahead and let this sit for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and it can sit in either the refrigerator or at room temperature. This is extremely acid, so it's acidic, so it's not going to spoil. But usually I go ahead and let it sit in the refrigerator, but not always. When I used to work at Microsoft, I used to let it sit out. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. So while the fish is marinating, I'm going to start the onions. The onions need at least half an hour. So I'm going to julienne them. Now for maybe probably for about 1 serving, this is probably enough onions. I would say for about 3 people you want a medium red onion. For about 2 servings, maybe a small red onion. For more, you can add more. But there's a very important trick in preparing these, which I'll get to in 1 second. So for the onions, and actually this is closer to 1 serving, what we're going to do is we're going to process them a little bit so they develop a very bright onion flavor, but not a very pungent one. So I'm going to start by covering them in just some cold tap water and salting them. And you can, it's not that important how much salt you use because the water will be discarded, but you should use a decent bit of salt. And then we're going to add a little bit of boiling water on top. And you'll note that the water will get kind of moderately warm, but it shouldn't be super, super hot. And then these onions will have to sit for at least half an hour to develop the right flavor. And now for the actual construction. Now I've stirred this fish a couple times in a few hours, and I'm going to put fish and lime juice in the bowl. I'm going to add maybe a good handful of onions on top. So after adding the onions, I'll add a bit of this cilantro, and I'm going to top it with some ketchup. This will all get then stirred around together. And usually I shoot for kind of an orange color once the ketchup And the might need a little more ketchup than that. And this is basically a small serving. If you really want to, now you can let it sit for just a few minutes for the flavors to settle. But the next thing I'll do is I will add some water and some salt to fill it up into a bit of a soup. So cold tap water. Stir it up again. And then I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Add salt to taste. And it's kind of a soup, so it takes a bit of salt. Stir this up again. And then add just a hair of olive oil. From here, I'm going to add a very small dash of cayenne pepper and stir that up one more time so you don't get a sudden fireball in your mouth. And then garnish it with a little more cilantro. So now time for the taste test. This is good. You have the sourness of the limes along with the onions and the cilantro. This is definitely one of my favorite summer dishes. So, hope you enjoy this. Hope you enjoy trying it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comments or otherwise. And bon appetit.